So your son's on the spectrum?
Yeah.
So's mine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. When you said therapy, I was wondering,
He goes to horse therapy with his grandma on Thursdays.
nice.
He's music therapy on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
He has speech and OT through his school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's chaos, but it is
Yeah.
what it is.
For sure.
That's
I
that's being a special needs parent. So
for sure. I think of autism as like nature's punk rock. You know what I mean? It's a deviation from the so-called norm, and it's impossible for my kid to not follow his own rules. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
that sounds about right. I
Yeah.
I I think that's honestly one of the best take on
Yeah.
autism that I've heard in a very long time.
Hmm.
So I might steal that from you.
Yeah,
So
no
there
problem.
you go. There you go. Welcome back for another episode of First, Last, and Best. We are well into season three with our fourth episode, our second edition of the actual First, Last, and Best format. Honestly, I feel really strong. This season seems to be going along really well, chugging right along, and I absolutely love it. This is actually probably the first time in quite a while that, well, no, I shouldn't say that because I was about to say we've had four new voices in a row, but that's a lie because we did Thought Experiment, and that was Colin, Angle, and Jeff, and they've been on the podcast multiple times, but that's neither here nor there. Who cares? Uh, well, we do have a brand new guest with us today, but we will get to that in a moment. Let's talk about social media. We are over on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, First, Last, and Best Podcast. You can also find us over on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. First, Last, and Best Podcast. Go give it a listen. We have everything from season one to season three today. You can see our vinyl collection on Instagram and TikTok. You can find our song of the day over on Facebook. We got reels. We got music history. We got a little bit of everything going on right now here with First, Last, and Best social media. So go give those a like, share, and subscribe. Blah blah blah. Usual podcast bullshit. Let us get into today's episode because, as I said, we do have a brand new guest, and our brand new guest has a podcast of its own. It's called Let's Ruin Our Lives. You can find it across every streaming platform, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. He is on Instagram. I don't know if he's anywhere else, but that's besides the point. We'll find out in a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, from Let's Ruin Our Lives, we got Josh with us today. Josh, what's going on, brother?
Yes, sir. Doing well. How are you? Thank you for
Oh,
having me.
I'm doing quite well. Thank you for asking. We did have a
Yeah.
little conversation before we got into the episode
Mhm.
proper. I did want to give you the opportunity to talk about Let's Ruin Our Lives because I've listened to a couple episodes, but
Yeah.
what is the overall premise? Like, where did it come from? How did you get started in doing it?
Okay. Well, so it's actually only on YouTube for the streaming. I tried Spotify and was getting like no traction whatsoever. So I was like, I'll just focus on YouTube. Still not getting a lot of traction, but
And
but
I feel your pain.
yeah, for sure. It's a rough market or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, Let's Ruin Our Lives is all about just like celebrating underground art and culture, with an emphasis on like music and comedy, especially like punk rock and stand-up comedy.
Nice.
I interview artists from across the whole spectrum of art, like comedians, obviously, bands, musicians, filmmakers, authors, anybody who makes art, really. And we got started about a year and a half ago or so. Um, I started it with a buddy back home in my hometown of San Pedro, where the Minutemen are from. Shout out. And it really started as like a comedy podcast. Like we both wanted to be comedians, and we started it with a guy who actually does comedy, and that didn't go well. So it became just me. The name comes from one night the guy I started it with was like very inebriated and like sobbing over a woman with unrequited love or whatever. And he was saying like, if we start this podcast, it's gonna ruin our lives. because of all the crazy stuff we say. And I was like, well, let's ruin our lives, you know? And
I like it.
it was really hard to come up with the name. We had considered several different ones, like based around San Pedro and it being a port town and stuff. And I was like, no,
Yeah.
let's ruin our lives. I thought really fits the vibe. And then I tried to keep I was like forcing the comedy aspect for a while. Then I realized, you know what? I'm a punk rocker. All I really know in this world is punk rock. And so I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I was like, I should focus around the scene around here, you know what I mean? So I started asking bands to come on and yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's all about
Nice.
yeah, just making sense of the world also and um yeah, I like to ask silly questions and sometimes supposedly deep questions. And that's it.
Deep questions are fine, but
Yeah.
it's the ridiculous that really drives people into podcasting, and
Right.
especially doing podcasting because it's ridiculous to begin with.
It is. Yeah.
It really is. I don't know why I continue to do this, but I do enjoy it.
For sure.
Like
It's fun. Yeah.
it's fun, but then you look at
Mm.
you just if you ignore numbers completely,
Right.
then
Totally.
it's a blast. But then you look at the numbers and you're
Totally.
like, fuck, why do I keep doing this?
For sure, for sure.
But
I
it
am
is
like
what
that
it
with yeah.
is.
Yeah. Well, I mean also getting to meet new people and like
Oh yes,
seeing
absolutely.
how people like look at life in all their different ways, you know what I mean? Like I really enjoy that.
I was going to say, there's not many people I've talked to so far who's been on the show
Mm.
that like I was great friends with before I started doing this, and then just all of a
Right.
sudden it just
Oh yeah.
friendships have emerged, and
Mm.
it's really cool. Like and
It
having to
is.
talk to some people. Like I had I'm not sure if you heard of her, Bailey Pope out of New York. She's
No.
a stand-up comic.
Oh, maybe.
Super fucking funny. She
Yeah,
is
yeah.
so funny.
Nice.
But I got hooked up to her through Mike Angle, who's another comedian who I've known for several years,
Okay, yeah.
out of Richmond, and just funny people with great
Mm.
opinions
Oh
and
yeah.
a love of music, which
Definitely. Yeah.
honestly, that's all you really need to be on the show is a love of music.
For sure.
And speaking of love of music,
Hmm.
we are actually going into almost like the godfathers of the punk rock scene of the
Hmm.
70s and 80s with the band you've chosen today. The
Hmm.
band you've chosen is the Dead Kennedys.
Yes, sir.
But one of the pioneers of West Coast hardcore and punk, uh, a band that is it's one of the epitome of punk rock.
Hmm.
They play fast, they play hard, they have a message, they have shit to say, and if you don't like
Right.
it, well, they have a song for you about that. It's called "Fuck Off." But that's besides the point. Um, what led you to liking Dead Kennedys? Is that it was just kind of like you stumbled into them, and this is the music I loved? Is it like hand down from a sibling, or like
Um, yeah, I think so I had to think about that one. I'm pretty sure I discovered them through Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, the song, the song Police
yeah,
Truck, and
yep,
it's either that or I just bought the first album like just randomly because they were a punk band, you know what I mean? But I think it was through Tony Hawk, and yeah, Police Truck, obviously a great song, you know, that strange guitar with that ultra reverb and like
hmm,
almost a surfy vibe, but like at the same time, like hard with like an old school rock feel, but also something totally unique and new, you know, like unto
absolutely,
itself. And uh, when I first heard Kill the Poor, you know, the first track on Fresh Fruit for Rotting
yep,
Vegetables, their first album, as soon as he starts with efficiency, I was just like, what? Like, this is wild. You know, it's so like theatrical and like it's a whole spectacle and it's serious music about serious issues, but it's also funny. But
very
it's
true.
not, you know what I mean? But it's not like a joke band, you know, like I could like I'm not calling this band a joke band, but like the Dead Milkmen are very funny,
Yes,
but they don't really speak about like serious issues that much, you know what I mean? It's
the Aquabats is another.
you know, yeah,
They're a serious band, but they're serious about music, but they are just goofballs to an nth
right,
degree, which
for sure.
I do love about them. So
Yeah, and you know, I've been a comedy fan my whole life. I've always relied on my sense of humor to get me through things and stuff.
yeah,
And the way Jello, like, he's using humor as like a weapon and like to parody like real world villains. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm like the way he's like satirizing and being ironic in his lyrics. Like I was when I just took a shower right now, I was thinking about it, how he's like he'll in his lyrics he takes on the role of the people he's mocking.
Yes.
Like in so many songs, California Uber Alice, I Am the Owl, Goons of Hazard, just
Yep.
probably most of their songs probably he's pretending to be this like evil person in a way that really shows you like just like a different way of thinking about like politics and social issues, you know?
Absolutely.
And yeah, they showed me that like music can be overtly political and work towards like achieving social change,
Yeah.
at the same time while being very funny. And the way they just like they're clearly a punk rock band. Like you listen to Dead Kennedys, you're like, oh, that's a punk band, but they don't stick to the rigid like downbeat format or
Yeah.
anything. With the whole like with East Bay Ray's amazing guitar playing, he's got to be like one of the best guitar players in punk rock, with that real unique sound. And just like it showed me that like you don't have to stick to genre so much. Like I would say none of their albums sound really alike in terms of like style, but you can always tell it's them, even without
Yeah.
Jello singing. Um,
I was
yeah.
going to say his voice is very distinct in a
Yes. Yeah.
genre where,
Right.
especially when you start getting into like 90s and early 2000s, where almost every voice is kind of nasally and sounds the same.
For sure.
Yellow has like this very distinct voice.
Yeah.
And that's
Definitely.
that's one thing I really liked about like the early punk days, where you
Mhm.
had like you could tell the Clash because of Joe Strummer's voice. You could tell
Right.
Black Flag because of
Totally.
Henry Rollins,
Totally.
Mike Ness of Social Distortion, and
Mhm.
Joey fucking Ramone.
Oh, for
I
sure.
mean,
Yeah.
like they all have like this distinct, not necessarily just
That's true.
they all have a distinct sound in their music, but it's the voice of the band that
Right.
really adds to the character of what they're putting together. And
Yeah.
it's if it wasn't for these specific lead singers, I don't think some of these bands would be as big as they
Hmm.
are or as have the same notoriety, I guess is the best way I'm trying to put it.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that. Like so many punk bands just all sort of blend together because they're all singing the exact same, it's the same gang vocals over and over. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you're right. A lot of the early
Whereas
bands
like
were super unique. Yeah.
yes, because I just because of the uniqueness of voices and what they're trying to say.
Mhm.
So first, last, and best as a concept. We talked about the first album, we talked about the last album, we talked about what we
Mhm.
think their best album is. Uh, the thing with Dead Kennedys, and I mentioned this last season when we were talking Misfits with James,
Nice.
is that it's kind of hard because in the they weren't around as long as a lot of bands were, and even when
Right.
if they were, like it's kind of hard because there's like they have the EPs, but they only seem to have like 3 or 4 real full length albums.
True.
I
Yeah.
think it's best with talking about the Dead Kennedys, kind of like talking about let's just talk about their full discography,
For sure.
going from album to album to album, because really
Okay.
the biggest thing about it is obviously they had their EPs, In God We Trust, and then
Hmm.
obviously Plastic Surgery Disasters and
Hmm.
Frankenchrist. But it's that Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables and Bedtime for Democracy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to uh, really just try and find because in all honesty, their best album to me
Hmm.
was probably their first.
Hmm.
Although I've enjoyed everything that they have put out,
Hmm.
but there was something about that first album that was so inspiring that it seemed like it was very hard to live up to
Hmm.
because
Okay.
well, it's just my opinion, but
Sure.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
Frankenchrist didn't seem as well, technically was not the follow-up. I believe it was Plastic Surgery
Yeah.
Disasters was the full
Hmm.
length after that.
Yeah.
Which you on that I did that one have that was the album with Nazi Punks Fuck Off, right? I
Um,
believe so. Like I could be wrong.
I
I
think
need to look
Nazi
into it.
Punk's Fuck Off was on like a short album. It
In God We Trust Inc. I think.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
because they combined those two together in the re-releases, I believe.
Yes, they
Yeah.
did. Oh yeah, Plastic Surgery Disasters and In God We
Mhm.
Trust Inc. was later
Mhm.
uh just squished together into one release. I
Right,
think it happened in like 86 or 87, if I
for
remember
sure.
right.
Sounds right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but to me, I would have to go back to that first album, Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables.
Hmm.
It's obviously banger over first track with Kill the Poor.
Hmm.
It there's so much about that album that still holds up to this day
For sure.
that I don't know. This just seems like and I love the fact that it ended with Viva Las Vegas, a cover
It's
song.
so funny. Yeah.
And it's something they did quite a few covers on their albums too.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, yeah,
It's-
especially on the live stuff too. Like
yeah,
they cover Back in the USSR, which I think is hilarious for them to cover the Beatles, you know?
anything covering the Beatles just really kind of throws me off, but that's
Yeah.
just me.
Of course,
Uh,
no, for sure. Yeah.
Rawhide was another one that they did, and
Right, right.
probably, well, I'll get into this when we talk about top threes, and I Fought the Law,
Oh yeah, right.
except the complete switch up from Joe Strummer.
Hmm.
Joe Strummer, I fought the law, and the law won. Joe is
Right,
like, I fought the law, I won.
right, right.
So
For sure.
had to change that up. Like, what did you think of Fresh Fruit?
Yeah, like totally changed my life, my approach to writing songs and lyrics and poems and stuff.
Mhm.
Like the whole album is a masterpiece for sure. You don't need to skip any song. What really like stands out to me is just it's really like bouncy and it has like the old school rock and roll playfulness of it,
Yeah,
but they're talking about like deadly serious issues from,
gotcha.
social class issues to wanting to kill yourself with four to death. And I Kill Children is just like, I don't know what's up with that song, but it's funny. And, and just, yeah, with the Dead Kennedys, it really comes to the guitar playing and the lyrics for me is that it showed me that the lyrics can be like I was like what 13 when I discovered them whenever Tony Hawk came out and just
Yeah,
like the lyrics are very dark and talking about real world things and the way he's criticizing the government both left and right, which I think is something honestly like people don't really give them enough credit for, is that not only was Dead Kennedys like staunchly anti what we would call today MAGA, or like Republican or right wing, they're also like pointing out the hypocrisy of liberalism, like with California Uber Alles. To me, that song is showing that at least at that time, the government of California was a right-wing fascist party masquerading as like a pro-progressive movement, you
yeah.
know? And myself, like I believe in anarchy or whatever, but I don't think it's possible. But freedom and justice for all or whatever. But like just what did I write down? I mean, it's just a really fun album talking about crazy stuff and just I don't know, it stands out. It's like I know Jello was inspired by like comic book villains when he was a kid and he
Hmm.
wanted to grow up to be one, he said, and it really shines through. He's like the Riddler.
I could see that.
Yeah, you can see it. He's like a combination of like the Joker and the Riddler, but with like purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, and yeah, it's just so fun. I don't know. You can
it
dance to
really
the
is.
music, and it's not beating you over the head with ideas. Live was obviously different with them, but
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. And the guitar playing, I mean, East Bay Ray, amazing. Just
fantastic. He really is.
he is that tone is it's so bright and like I don't want to use the word ethereal, but it's just so like it really takes you places in his
I
playing
agree.
with the reverb and the delay. Like when was reverb and delay ever really a thing in punk? And before them, you
I
know?
mean, you really did not see it as often as you would think, especially in the early
No,
80s,
yeah,
early to mid 80s.
for sure.
And honestly, I think Klotz doesn't get enough credit as their bass player
Oh,
because
for sure. Oh yeah, he's great.
his
Yeah.
bass lines are really tight, really
Hmm.
fantastic. Just as a bass player, I
True.
can't help but just be like, that's what I have a tendency to listen to.
Okay, yeah.
Beyond the like actual message and or the content of the lyrics, I have
Hmm.
a tendency to kind of stick to bass lines and how
Okay,
they
yeah.
hit my ear. And Klaus, just when you talk about like some of the best bass players in punk rock,
Definitely.
like
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of the bass player from the Descendants,
Mhm.
uh, like Matt Freeman from Rancid, not
Yeah, I was gonna
Bybee.
say. Yeah.
Obviously, Mount Rushmore bass player right there. But I
Mhm.
don't think Klaus gets talked about enough as a solid bass player who has really good runs and who
That's true.
really just is an integral part to the rhythm section of this band. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know if they've changed bass players. I think they have
No.
since they've come back. I don't know
Oh,
100%.
really?
I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think, no, Klaus is still in the band now.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh
DH died though.
DH
The
died.
yeah.
Yeah. But Klaus is still around. So, but that is such a huge part to keeping the band like
Mhm.
exactly where they want it to be.
For sure.
So, yeah, but like I said, just in my opinion, I don't think he gets enough credit as a bass player. He was
Yeah,
so good.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I wish they played. I think the closest they came to Virginia was they came to Philadelphia last year, and a
Mm.
part of me wishes I went and saw them play because I've never seen them. I've never seen Social Distortion, and I would
Mm.
love to
Okay.
go see Social D. And it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like one of those bands that just like they started the scene. They are the godfathers of punk rock,
Sure.
and it's just one of those things that you feel like you need to go see before you die. So like the Grand Canyon or something.
Yeah. I saw Social D in like 2004
Yeah,
with a girlfriend who I didn't know was cheating on me at the time.
well, that's
And
sad.
so we left by like the second song because she was like flirting with all the guys around her and I got like really upset. And so I kind of regret
Yes.
that, but yeah.
So obviously, we just talked about Fresh Fruit. I
Mm,
Bedtime for Democracy was a little bit harder of an album to get through for
mhm.
me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you could definitely hear the differences in sound and how they were playing. Also, this was like really kind of towards the end of their run. Uh,
Mhm,
it just did not hit as hard as like
mhm,
some of the other ones, like especially Fresh Fruit, especially Plastic Surgery Disaster.
mhm,
It just felt like this album wasn't quite as strong as the
mhm.
others.
Definitely. Yeah. I'd agree with that. I think, like you said, it's notably a lot hard. Well, you said harder to get through. I would also say it's a lot more typically, not typically, but traditionally hardcore of a
Yeah,
punk album. You know what I mean? It's a lot just bam, 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 like down a lot of downbeats and just like really fast, short songs, which is something they never really did. Um, I believe that album was released after they broke up, after they got sued by the PMRC because
yeah,
of the artwork on Frankenchrist or the artwork insert on Frankenchrist.
yeah,
And you could tell that there was a lot of inner conflict in that band, which I think is something that really stands out about the Dead Kennedys too. But like to me, you can feel like the inner tension of that band. Like from watching like live videos, you can see that the band wanted Jello to kind of shut up about politics, and
yeah.
just like I think it's still really good as far as punk albums go, but yeah, I would say it's my least favorite, but I still love it. Like one of my favorite songs ever is on that, or a couple of them are actually on that album. And I know you said top three later in the podcast, so I'll bring
Yeah.
those up later. But yeah, I mean, the I feel like it was a band not so much burning out, but like imploding, and it comes through in the music on that album.
Yeah.
And like the frustration with the punk scene itself is very highlighted in that with Anarchy for Sale and Chicken Shit Conformist,
Yeah.
but it feels like a long album, even though it's not. But I believe it's like 17, 18 songs, and a lot of them sort of blur together. Like it's all just sort of the same thing over and over.
And that's like one thing that I've never really been a huge fan of for some bands is the fact that it feels like you use the same chords and the same progressions over and over and
Yes.
over and over again. You're just
Yeah.
throwing different words on top of it, and it just
Yeah.
makes for like really poor, like it's maybe not necessarily poor because obviously these guys
Mhm.
did something that I've never done. So what the hell am I going to tell them? but at the same time, it just feels not quite the quality that you want it to be. Because
Definitely.
there are like looking on Spotify, it does show that there are 21 songs on Bedtime for
Oh
Democracy
wow. Yeah.
in 48 minutes. I mean, you're
Oh, so
averaging like
that's yeah, that is long then for a punk
yeah,
album.
yeah. Well, it's at the same time with 21 songs in 48 minutes, you're averaging like
True.
what, 2 minutes and change per song.
True. True.
And it honestly feels like, hey, let's throw everything at the wall, see what sticks. And
Exactly. Yeah.
but it came out. I don't know when the album came out. They played their last show in
Mm.
February of '86,
Wow.
but
Yeah.
decided to split up in January. And I
Mm.
don't know when this album came out. I think it came out in November of '86
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because Jello was the one who was kind of pushing for it to still go out.
I see.
So because he was in charge, like when the band broke up, he was still in charge of the label that
Mm.
they were
Right.
recording on.
Yeah.
So he was still pushing for it to go out. So,
Right. Right.
so I don't know. It's honestly it's one of those bands that when they're great, they're great. They
Hmm.
are fucking fantastic. But when they want to phone it in, they go so too. So,
Mm. For
which
sure.
I don't have any problems with. I mean, it's like I said, sometimes not everything is gonna be gold.
Mm.
So it's definitely good to, try, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just
Yeah.
talking
I
out my
feel you.
ass right now.
No, no, I feel you. I mean, I think it's still distinctly like Dead Kennedys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is just so like compared to all their other albums, it's pretty like generic, you
Yes.
know?
There it
And it
is.
yeah, you know. But yeah, I do have a tidbit of info about I don't know when the right time to bring this up or if you even want to talk about it.
Anytime you want, go ahead.
Just like the inner conflict of the band. Like I feel like most fans
Shoot.
of this band and most people in the punk scene would know that one of the reasons that they broke up, according to Jello, would be that the rest of the Dead Kennedys wanted to sell their song "Holiday in Cambodia" for a Levi's commercial, right? And so he kind of always painted them as like sellouts or like wannabe sellouts, right? You know, they're supposed to be
Oh,
anti-capitalist, anti-consumerism or whatever. I imagine that Levi's probably is a pretty evil company. However, in the late 90s, the Dead Kennedys sued Jello for fraud and a breach of contract. He was withholding their royalties from the rest of the band and he lost and he wanted to dissolve the partnership between them all. And
yeah.
so and he lost. The judge threw out the dissolving of the partnership litigation or whatever, and he had to pay like $220,000 in back royalties to them. Which to me, it's like, damn, Jello, like you're kind
You're
of a
gonna
fucking asshole. It doesn't matter if they're sellouts. Like they're your band. It doesn't like he couldn't play any instruments. You know what I mean? The story goes that he would just like hum the music to the guys, and then they would
they
base it
would
off of
figure it out.
whatever he came out. Yeah, and they would figure it out, which makes them amazing musicians, you know,
100%.
and just like yeah, when I found that out a few years ago, I was like, dang, you know, that's super
It's really
shady,
fucked up.
dude.
It
Yeah,
really is. I
it's really
mean,
fucked up. Yeah.
especially calling them sellouts and like, oh, you're gonna sell out, you're gonna take money from the man. And then
Hmm.
you're like, well, I'm just gonna put all this over here in a drawer and let's not talk about
Yeah,
it, guys.
exactly. Like
That's some
pocket all their
bullshit.
money. It is bullshit for sure. So that
No.
kind of made me, I hate like blaming artists for their personal life or something, but the Dead Kennedys shaped who I am. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
shaped my political beliefs, my worldview, the way I approach art, and they still do. But it's like, damn, Jello, that's just
Right.
that's wrong. You know? Yeah,
Especially first,
it
like
made me lose a
having,
little respect for him. You know?
yeah, especially having someone that for years you believed in, and then there's this bullshit, and there's
Yeah,
this seems like kind of an asshole for, especially for people
for
that,
sure.
you were tight with and you worked together to build
Hmm.
something that is honestly, how many bands from the 70s and 80s really
For
continue to
sure.
last to this day?
Yeah, for sure. For
I
sure.
mean, especially in the punk rock scene.
And I was honestly, the Dead Kennedys, their music is timeless. Like
Yeah.
what, with all this stuff going on, I'm sorry to bring up politics or whatever, but we are talking about the Dead Kennedys.
It's
So
kind of hard not to sometimes when you're talking about punk music,
yeah,
that you're going to
yeah,
stumble into politics
for
eventually.
sure,
But
for
no,
sure.
you're right. Like everything
Yeah.
they were singing about then is still relevant today,
It's
which
still,
is
yeah.
depressing as hell when you think
Yeah,
about it. But at the same
exactly.
time, it's like punk music was kind of like this
Mm.
force to were a force for change and to,
Mm.
try and change the world. And here we are
Yeah,
40 some odd years later, and
I
just like
know.
everything they were singing about, we're starting to sing about and has been sung 20,000 times over the years,
Right. Yeah.
which
But the Dead Kennedys did it with such flair. You
they
know what I
really did.
mean? With Jello's whole presentation is just like it's flamboyant and like his lisp, it really like
Yeah.
and you know what? Something about Jello I don't think he gets credit for is that he can sing. Like
Yeah.
he can sing like traditionally. He just kind of sort of chooses not to, and he does this weird like cartoonish character of a supervillain that's on the side of good, and it's
Yeah.
just so like they're kind of like a whole how do I put it? Like they're like an entity, you know what I mean? That you listen to the Dead Kennedys and it's like this is the Dead Kennedys and this like means something for not just like punk but for counterculture at large, you know what I mean? That they really
Yeah.
are a staple of like underground culture and like what it means to be an artist. You know what I mean? Like
100% agree.
yeah.
No.
Um so yeah, I don't know. Bedtime Democracy. I say it's still good, but definitely not the best. I'd say it's their
Yeah.
worst album for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I would have to agree with you. Like not
Yeah.
terrible, but at the same time, when you take a look at everything that they put out before that, it felt
Yeah.
almost like a letdown a little
Yeah.
bit.
Definitely.
Um,
Definitely. And
so
again, I think a lot of that has to do with the inner tension of the band.
that's true. I mean,
For sure.
it's hard to put out a really solid album
Hmm.
when because the band is it's several different
Mm.
functions all harmonizing into like one thing.
Right.
And when there's no harmony between the band, it's kind of
Mm.
hard. Very few bands are able to put out a good record when everyone's fighting. And I
Definitely.
think
Yeah.
the only band that's been able to do that to a ridiculous degree is the Beatles. But that's
Hmm.
just me. Because towards the
Yeah.
end, no one fucking got along in the Beatles.
True. Yeah.
Oh,
I saw a reel recently. It was just like George Harrison just quits in the middle of the practice. Like n no sort of ceremony at all. He's just like, well,
I'm
I'm
done.
done. Yeah.
Fuck this.
Also, the Dead Kennedys getting sued by the government, by Tipper Gore's PMRC for distributing
Oh,
pornographic material to minors. Like, I would say that was a major hit to the band as well. You know.
yeah, that did not help things
No,
at
I
all.
mean, what the album artwork was H.R. Geiger's Penis Landscape 2, which a bunch
Yeah,
of stretch for anybody listening who doesn't know, H.R. Geiger is responsible for the design of like Alien and the Predator ship and that whole biomechanical form of artwork or whatever.
yeah,
Great, amazing artist. And Penis Landscape number 2 is a bunch of stretched out dicks going into buttholes. And that was an insert on Frankenchrist, and that's what got them sued. The PMRC were sue happy. They sued what fucking Twisted Sister, John Denver,
everybody,
everybody. I think Run DMC, like
fucking
all everybody,
everyone.
yeah, fucking evil.
That's
You know,
fucking sad.
yeah,
What? The DMC of all people,
I
they
know,
are
right?
some. They just
By today's standards, super fucking wholesome music. Like,
really, it
and
is.
the
Yeah,
PMRC being
song.
responsible for the PMRC being responsible for explicit content advisory on CDs back in the day. I don't think that's a thing anymore. But when I was a kid, supposedly you had to be 18 years old or have a
Yeah,
parent with you. That never happened to me, but
I think
you know.
even now it's just like if it's on there, we're like, all right, whatever, scan.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. So I think that must have really fucked them up psychologically. And
yeah,
Jello running for mayor of San Francisco. I don't know how much the other band backed him, or the rest of the band backed him on that. But I imagine having a political career at the same time you're in a hardcore punk band, a touring band, that probably led to some strife.
Yeah, he was
I would,
probably not going to be in San Francisco very often, but
yeah, right.
what the hell do I know?
He wanted to ban cars from San Francisco, which I think is hilarious. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
Sometimes you just need to come up with some crazy ass ideas, and
for sure.
maybe someone will vote for you. I mean,
I believe he came in third place. Yeah. Other than that, did you ever see he made a commercial where
no.
he's like, promoting his candidacy or whatever, and he's like taking vacuums to like ferns and like we're gonna clean up the city. He wanted to ban cars. He wanted to erect a statue of, I want to say, Dan Brown, or I forget who, or maybe the dragon lady that they called her Nancy something, some politician. He wanted to erect a statue so people could throw eggs at it, and he had a lot of joke, like,
Yeah,
points in his running for mayor, but he also had some pretty like serious stuff too.
I need to find that
So
later. So
yeah, it's a fascinating band. So
sounds like it.
for
Mm,
sure.
so we talked about the albums. Let's talk about the top three.
Okay, do you want to do
Now,
I have seen them live.
oh, have you?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It
Then
yeah,
please share.
it was in, I want to say, 2002 or 2003 at a place called The Palace in Hollywood,
Uh,
California. It got tore down or whatever, changed ownership a long time ago, but great venue. I had like an upper deck, could fit hundreds of people, and they played with Fear and the Dickies.
ooh,
Fear was actually the band that got me into punk, so that was like, hell yeah, you know what I mean? And the band I
yeah.
was in at the time was covering the Dickies. And obviously they had the different singer. I believe it was the singer from the Oakland or the NorCal band, Dr. No. I believe it was the singer
It
from
was
Dr.
Brandon
No.
Cruz.
Yeah, yeah. And but it was funny because he had like a piece of paper with the lyrics or whatever, and it was still good. But what's funny about that was that I told my dad I wanted to go to this concert. I was in like my first punk band at the time or whatever, and my dad mailed the Palace our little EP or whatever. What's the short ones called? Is it EPs or
It's an
LPs?
EP.
EP, yeah. It was like 6 songs. My dad mailed it to them and like called them saying like, "Hey, can they open for the show?" And I was like, "What?" My
Uh,
dad not into
yeah.
punk rock at all, but he did want to see me succeed
Was
in
very
music.
nice of him.
Very nice of him. And so obviously they said no, but they did give us 2 free tickets.
Nice.
So I got to see them for free. Yeah, I took my buddy Armando, and it was great. I remember some punker in the audience, obviously probably 20s or whatever. Everybody's pitting or moshing, not really a circle pit for them. It was more, the old school slam dancing or whatever, pogoing and stuff. And the dude just like looked at me in the face and like poured his beer on his head and stuck his tongue out. And I was like 14 years old, like, okay. Oh no, I was probably like 15 years old. And
But
I thought it was
oh,
funny.
that's great.
So yeah, that was my live experience with them. They did
Nice.
great. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
So
Getting to see them on.
yeah.
Yes. So normally, because I have to explain this, because some
Mhm.
people angle, uh, just like start spouting out everything. We're gonna go number threes because we'll start with you, then we'll go to me, then we'll do
Okay.
number twos, then we'll do number
Oh, okay.
ones. Yeah,
Okay.
because sometimes, or if you're my wife, you just take over the list and do whatever the hell you want.
Right.
Which she did in the first episode, and I just nodded my head and smiled because,
Mhm.
I'd like to remain married, please.
For sure.
Um, so, so let's go ahead. Number three favorite song by the Dead Kennedys. What you got?
So it's actually from the Bedtime for Democracy. It is Chicken Shit Conformist.
Nice.
Yeah, a total indictment of the hypocrisy of the punk scene. The lyrics, punk's not dead, it just deserves to die when it becomes another stale cartoon, a closed-minded, self-centered social club. Ideas don't matter, it's who you know. And as somebody who has been involved in punk rock since I was like 13, 14 years old, I was just like, that's exactly what we have to deal with in the punk scene. It's unfortunately, there's a lot of people who aren't in it for the art or the expression. They're just there to get fucked up, to show off their fashion, and to become popular.
Yeah.
And, to me, punk rock is a place for outcasts and for weirdos who don't fit in anywhere. Like, even within the punk scene, I've always felt like sort of out of place, like, because I have ideas and like
Yeah.
I would like to see those ideas like do good in the world. And for most people, it's just like, I mean, it's a refuge, obviously. And if it wasn't for punk, I wouldn't have the life I have today, and I'm very grateful for it. It probably saved me from killing myself like several
Yeah.
times, but just that whole the whole content and content behind that song of calling out this movement or culture rather that's supposed to be a vehicle for social change and like enlightenment being used as nothing more than a platform for people to be a different sort of preppy. You know what I mean? A different sort of cool person, a cool guy or whatever, or like a bro, basically. Like I have a lot of gripes with hardcore as a genre, what we know
Yeah.
today as hardcore. It literally destroyed my high school punk scene.
Oh Lord.
When they started to come to our shows, they started jumping people, targeting people who were fucked up on alcohol or whatever,
Yeah.
and being like probably rapists. Let's be honest here. That scene's rife with really problematic people. I hate that term, by the way, but it's true. And at least in my experience. And but that song is just fucking awesome. And the way it goes from like slow, clean guitar, which pretty unheard of in punk, in the harder style of rock and roll, and then to just rampaging fucking second verses, whatever you want to call them. I just love it so much. I that song holds true to this day, unfortunately, but I just love the way that he was willing to call out, like, guys, we're not doing this right. You know what I mean? Like this is supposed to be anarchy. Like there's not supposed to be it's not supposed to be a fashion show. It's not like you're not doing this to get like rich and famous. You're doing it to create community and to express yourself. And I wish I would have looked up the lyrics because I feel like I'm rambling, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? It's just calling out the hypocrisy of punk itself. I think is such an important thing to do. Like if you're going to be part of any movement, like especially one that's as ultra leftist as what the Dead Kennedys were portraying and what punk rock like at its heart is, like at some point, like I kind of believe gatekeeping kind of becomes necessary because there's so many posers. As much as that word sucks too, there are people just
Yeah.
pretending to be punk who have they have no stake in the game. You know what I mean? For them, it's
Yeah.
just to get fucked up and to be popular. And I think that's really fucking lame.
Actually, my number one song is similar, has a similar message to that, and we'll get
Yeah.
there. Um, I will say I am not as big into the Dead Kennedys as
Mhm.
you are, or really
Who
much.
is?
Well, like
Yeah.
when I was really getting into punk rock and listening to like the early 70s, like late 70s, early 80s, it was Misfits, it was The
Yeah.
Clash, the Ramones, Social D. Dead Kennedys was like one of those bands like I'd listen to occasionally, but they weren't
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
as like a part of my punk rock education
Mhm.
as like other bands. I will say my number three is I Fought the Law, just
Yeah.
because that was like one of the first songs. And being a huge fan of The Clash,
Mhm.
I do like it when, you do an homage to like
For
another
sure.
band, especially if you record it. I Fought the Law is just such a fun song to begin with. I
Yeah.
still love Joe Strummer to this day, but
For
I
sure.
love that East Bay Ray and I love Jello's voice for this.
Mhm.
It's just it's a good version of the song, and I really
Mhm.
do like the little cheeky "I fought the law and I won"
Yeah.
versus Joe Strummer's "I fought the law and the law won," which happens
Mhm.
more often than, especially being in the punk rock scene,
Right.
happens way more often than you really want to admit.
For
So,
sure.
so number two,
That would be Moon over Marin on Plastic Surgery Disasters.
nice.
Very different from all their other songs. One of their very few uh, where the lyrics are actually like personal. I believe it's about one of Jello's friends who killed themselves.
Yeah,
Um, and I can only really think of like two songs of theirs, Dead End, which is actually right before Moon Over Marin on the album, and then Moon Over Marin as being like very emotional songs about like real something in his personal life rather than politics. And to quote Tom Waits, I love beautiful melodies telling me terrible things. And I think Moon Over Marin is a perfect example of that. It's with that again surfy but like washed out guitar sound where he, from the it's just so melodic and beautiful, like in the music itself, but the lyrics are deeply sad. It's about somebody jumping into their hot tub with a a toaster or a microwave or whatever, and electrocuting themselves to death. And it's an homage to that person. It's honoring them as a human being, and I find that really beautiful. I love bittersweet stuff, and I think that
Yeah.
song's a great example of that.
I would have to go for my number two, California Uber Alles.
Nice.
I do it's such a good song to begin with, but it's Jello basically telling a story of the how California is kind of falling apart and
Hmm.
how the governor is just a big piece of shit.
Yeah,
Uh, that poses as like this progressive, but really is just a big piece
exactly.
of shit.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so uh, just the guitar playing, the bass line, it's a great song. It really is.
It is. Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
number one for you, sir.
I'll go with off of Give Me Convenience or Give Me Death. All the B-sides is Pull My Strings,
Nice.
the live song. Yeah, the story behind that is that they were playing at some music awards show in San Francisco, probably I think for some magazine or some underground magazine or something. And they started off by playing California Uber Alles. Jello interrupts it, and they were all wearing white shirts with the letter S on it, and they
Yeah.
had their ties backwards. Jello interrupts and he says, "No, no, no, no. We're grown-ups now. We're not a punk rock band. We're a new wave band." New wave being the commercially accessible version of punk rock. New wave being a term that was given to punk bands like Blondie or Devo
Yeah.
to make them commercially viable to the mainstream audience. And so they all turn their ties around so it forms a dollar sign on their shirts, right? And they go into this hilarious song that is an indictment about rock and roll culture. Is my brain small enough? Is my cock big enough for you to make me a star? Fucking hilarious. Just, really hammering it in that punk rock culture and what has really become like pop music culture is just all about looking a certain way, vapid lyrics, it not not making art for the sake of like societal change, but just selling a product. And that's something the Dead Kennedys were always really against, and that song really exemplifies that. It's fucking funny, and Jello is singing his ass off in that song. Like I said earlier, like he's hitting the notes, he's singing really well, especially for a punk musician. And East Bay Ray with that amazing guitar solo that I believe he improvised on the spot. It's the only recording of that song that they never recorded it on an album or a EP, and that honestly probably one of my favorite songs of all time. No, it for sure
Nice.
is. Yeah, and my favorite of the Dead Kennedys. It's like the
So,
perfect example of the band. Sorry.
yeah, you're good. Probably for me, and this should not be as very big surprise,
Mm,
is Nazi Punk's Fuck Off.
nice.
Because what I love about the song is that while everyone, especially over the last few years, has kind of taken this as an anthem of
Right.
telling Nazis to fuck off, it is
Totally.
way more than that. Because
Mm,
if you actually listen, it is about the people who show up to the punk rock scene
yes.
and are choosing violence. It's people
Hmm.
who are, you
Totally.
know, conforming to the authority, to that basically are the authority, and then
Hmm.
they just, you know what, y'all fuck off. It's the
Yeah.
people who are showing up saying that they're punk rock, but choosing to be violent and hating and just full of malice towards their fellow
Yeah.
quote unquote punk rockers.
Right.
And honestly, that's not what it was all about. Like there's a place for like slam dancing and moshing and everything else.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it's just you fall down, you pick someone up. That's always
Exactly.
been the credo in the mosh pit. And
For
some of
sure.
these assholes just like are there just to they are there to hurt you. They are there to cause
Hmm.
harm.
Yep,
And
exactly.
it's fucking horseshit. And it's not just telling Nazis to fuck off, which by the way, Nazis can go fuck right the hell off.
Definitely agreed.
But it's also these people that are just showing up to create an environment that is so hostile that it's just you don't feel safe. And
For sure.
for a lot of people, I mean, the punk rock community, it's the only place they felt safe.
Yes, definitely.
So
Yeah.
this like almost like this force of just assholes showing
Hmm.
up. They don't have to be white supremacists, but at the same
Right.
time, quite a few of them are.
Yeah.
Um, just
Yeah.
show up and be fucking pricks
Hmm.
because that's punk rock to them, which does not make sense to me at all.
Right,
So,
right.
so this song has always kind of struck a chord with me, and always will strike a chord with me.
Hmm.
And I'm glad I've looked into this song further because at first I'm just like Nazis fuck off. No, it's
Right.
not. It's beyond that. It's like endemic of a culture that is trying to twist what we are and saying that it's nothing but chaotic violence when it's anything but.
Hmm.
So, so this
Yeah.
song has always been
Can I
always.
add to
Yeah,
that? Like
please, 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 please.
your point with like moshing, like in slam dancing and in like circle pitting, like it's a controlled violence. Like it's a healthy way to get out the aggression that you have in your life, but it also subsequently forms community. You know what I mean? You're slamming into your best friend. You're slamming into your stranger. Something that I like to do would be to go against the flow of the slam dancing and take
Yeah,
someone and throw them to the other side. And it's like, but I'm making sure that they're not falling. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I'm like cradling them in a sense. It's like it really creates it's sort of like amoebas coming together, or like, you know what I mean, like cells coming together to form like a larger body. You know,
yes,
it's like it, and it's also sort of like I actually saw a clip from a different podcast where they were talking about how like moshing is sort of it's like a natural behavior, you know, amongst cells and animals. Like look at um like again like cells coming together to form multicellular organisms, but like look at like tornadoes or when sharks and dolphins will whip up fish into those whatever they're
yeah,
called, you know what I mean, the feeding frenzies where they're creating an underwater like vortex. Human beings have been running around in circles since we created music, since our Paleolithic days. You know what
yeah.
I mean? It's to me like punk, and especially with like moshing and slam dancing, it's primordial, it's prehistoric. You know, like punk to me means like it predates organized civilization, and it's the concept of individuality and community. And I think in our modern times, those are sort of seen as like opposing ideals, you know. But like in punk, you're allowed to be yourself, but you're a part of something. And slam dancing is like it's it's the bread and butter coming together. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling again, but you get, I think you get what I'm saying,
I'm
right?
picking
Like
up what you're putting down.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
no,
So,
I
and with
completely
hardcore
appreciate
dancing, I fucking hate hardcore dancing. That to me, that's the antithesis of punk dancing because it's literally only you swinging your arms and your legs around, and you're forcing people away. You're literally forcing people to go be marginalized on the edge of the crowd
it.
where
Yeah,
they can enjoy the show, and you're making the show all about yourself. You're
yeah.
not coming together in this cohesive, you know, form of a slam dance or a circle pit. It's you're making it's self-centered and selfish. And
That's
I,
one thing I
you
really
know,
do like about a circle pit is
yeah,
that 99 times out of 100, you're going to see three random people who have nothing to do with one another, like
right,
arm in arm or like arms around shoulders, like fucking running around and just being nuts.
exactly.
So,
Yeah,
and
it's great.
there's something very beautiful and poetic about that to me.
Definitely, you know, and with that, you know, you form like lifelong relationships
That's
sometimes, you know what
true.
I mean? You'll have
You
friends
really
for the
do.
rest of your life because of punk. And I don't
And
think,
honestly, you show up to shows and just, hey, you. I don't remember
yeah.
your name, but I remember you.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
It really is beautiful, and the griminess of it all, just like, yeah, I'm a fucking piece of shit, but like, so what?
I'm
Like,
surrounded by other pieces of shit. We're all
yeah,
pieces of shit
you know,
together.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Pieces of shit according to society status quo.
right.
Right,
All right. So that's going to be the end of the show.
Okay.
However, there is one thing else, one last thing I need to ask you, Josh.
Yes.
Last year, I put together a mental health playlist, and I
Mhm.
like to ask new guests, or honestly, returning guests too, if there's
Mhm.
something that they would like to add to the mental health playlist.
Yeah.
Josh, do you have a song that you would like to add?
It's not, does it have to be a song?
Preferably, but if
Okay.
it,
Then I would have to say
why is
it's
there
go-
something?
it's gonna be by Cradle of Filth,
Okay,
the symphonic black metal band from England.
yeah,
Really a genre unto themselves. And it would, if I had to choose a song, I would, ooh, I would say Dusk and Her Embrace, the title
nice.
track from their second full-length album when they
Yeah,
really came together with all the keyboards and female backing vocals. Just Danny Filth screaming and his Shakespearean lyrics and the speed picking, the blast beats, and it's so operatic and like it's really uplifting to me. Like when I'm feeling really, really down, thankfully I'm on Lexapro nowadays, but I like to get on my electric bike and go as fast as I can and turn up that song
nice.
as loud as I can and just fucking let that screaming go through me. It's very cathartic and therapeutic to me. I find a lot of healing in confronting darkness, and they're like the perfect band for that for me. I love Cradle of Filth. I
That's
also
awesome.
I also saw them at the Palace, I believe the same year I saw the Dead Kennedys.
That's awesome, dude.
Actually, they were my first concert at the Palace.
Really? Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the first concert you've ever been to?
It was Cradle of Filth. Yeah, they
Really, that
played.
was your first, like,
Yeah,
that popped
yeah.
your cherry. That was the
That was
first
my
concert
first
you went to.
concert. Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
They played with Nile, who's pretty big now in the
Yeah.
death metal scene, Crematorium. I don't know what happened to them, and I don't remember the other bands, but yeah, it was scary. The
For being your
pits.
first live show,
Yeah, and I
that's
was real
like
young. I was
jumping
like
into the deep end too,
for
man.
real. Yeah, I was like 14, 15 years old. It was pretty scary. My
I was
second
gonna
was
say,
yeah, yeah. I was in a metal band before I was in a punk band, but I realized later on that punk was really the place for me.
yeah.
And yeah,
I was gonna say first show I've ever went to was Beach Boys in Chicago.
that's awesome.
My
That's
parents
really
took
cool.
me, my brother, and my sister, and that
Nice.
was honestly, it was fun.
For
So
sure. How old were
Saturdays
you?
in the park. I was 10.
That's awesome.
Look, my dad really loved music, and I grew up on listening to vinyls and stuff with him, and
Yeah, yeah,
so that music has always kind of stuck with me, and it's kind of how I
for sure.
stumbled into this insanity that is my life.
For
So,
sure.
so,
Can
so
I before we go, can I
absolutely,
give a little fun fact that ties
absolutely, I love a fun fact.
so okay. So after the Dead Kennedys regained control, like the rest of the band regained control of their music,
Yeah.
they licensed their music to Manifesto Records. The last band that I was in 10 years ago, we released an album through Manifesto Records.
Oh,
And
nice.
to me, that was like once I found out that it's all reissues, mainly reissues, but at that time, like goth punk was becoming a scene or a thing, I should say. And I was in a goth punk band, and the Manifesto Records wanted to be like hip, so they recruited four different bands, and we were one of those bands.
That's
And
awesome.
they totally ripped us off, but and they wanted to own our music in perpetuity throughout the universe. We talked them down to 5 years. I have not received any money from that album. I doubt I ever will. Not that that's what it's about, but it would be nice. But when I found out that, we're getting signed to the company that I bought all my Dead Kennedy CDs through, I was like, this is fucking amazing. Like it felt like, like spiritual almost. Like
Memphis
it was
Destiny.
so cool. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Manifesto Destiny. Yeah.
That was nice. I like that you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good stuff.
I'm a very punny guy.
Oh, there it is. Well, you're also a dad, so you got to have those dad moments. So,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Josh, thanks for coming on the show, man. I really
Thank you,
appreciate
man.
it. I'd love to have you back later on with any
Yeah.
other band you want to talk about.
Oh,
Uh,
for sure.
Let's Ruin Our Lives. It's over on YouTube. Go check it out.
Yep.
All episodes are there. Go check it out. Go
Yep.
check him out on Instagram.
Hmm.
Go give his page a follow. Next week, I believe we will be doing bands you should know. Gary from the Backyard Superheroes will be here. We're going to be talking about their 14-year anniversary coming up.
Nice.
We're going to be talking about their release with Mass Hysteria. We're going to be talking about some of their Christmas songs that they've put out because we are going to try and do this before Christmas, but we didn't.
Nice.
Um, and I'm truly stoked to have yet another one of my ska favorites on the podcast. Um, like I said, you can find us on everywhere: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, blah 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 blah. Uh, Josh, you're awesome, dude. Appreciate
Thank you.
you.
Thank you
And
for having me on.
hey man, not a problem anytime. And we will see you guys next week with bands you should know.